So, Team Sonic Racing. Considering I feel like I'm one of the only few people that actually remembers this game, I feel like it's time to do it justice with a video on it. Especially considering like a sort of sequel got announced to this as I was making this video. So I won't mention too much in this video since like a good majority of this video, the stuff recorded in this video was before that announcement. But yeah, with that coming soon, as well as the game turning about 5.5 or being around 5.5 years old and turning 5 years old, a half a year ago, I guess. Again, this was supposed to be 5 years ago, but the video took a long time to make, so yeah, I really hope you enjoy it. Again, it's probably one of the biggest videos I've worked on. It's going to be a long time. Again, this was supposed to be 5 years later, but I was supposed to be 5.5 years later, so... yeah, but anyways, I'm going to cue that transition. Let's roll into the intro.
Hello guys, welcome back to another Tranquil video. And like I said in the first bit of the video, I will be analyzing and sharing some of my thoughts on Team Sonic Racing. Now some of you might have noticed or even known this, but this game arrived after quite a weird era of Sonic racing games. Even though Sonic is known for its high-speed adventures, and racing games are known for their speedy gameplay as well, the combo could seem awesome together. But him and racing games never quite meshed well together. His first attempts at racing go all the way back to the Sonic Drift duology in the Sega Game Gear, and these games have not aged well, and are not the best to play, but it wasn't the Game Gear, so it makes sense. Then a few years later, there was Sonic R, a racing game that took place on foot, and the game wasn't received well at all by most, due to a number of factors, but the game has a banger soundtrack. Then, about a decade or so later, another racing duology came out, the Sonic Rivals game on PSP. They were like Sonic R, but were in 2.5D, and had you race 1v1s against other characters. All these games were better compared to Sonic R, people still had some issues with the duology, and the games ended up being kinda average. The best thing the Sonic Racing scene had for a while was the Sonic Riders games, and the Sega All-Stars Racing game, but even still, they had their own issues. While Sonic Riders and the sequel Zero Gravity were received quite well and are quite fun games from what I've heard, Sega decided to make a third game with Sonic 3 Riders, and... yeah, it was pretty bad. Since the game was despised by players, it killed any chance of Sega rounding the series into a proper sub-series of Sonic, and with some people even saying that this was the worst Sonic game of all time in general. And with the Sega All-Stars Racing duology, these aren't technically Sonic games, they are Sega racing games, just a lot of Sonic representation. Although that doesn't make sense, Sonic is Sega's most popular franchise. But even still, these games are great. At least the sequel Transform is, as I've never played the OG game, but I bet it's pretty good. And they were received well by most. And also a quick reason to get into lore, but Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transform is the first ever video game I ever played. So I guess we can add that to the sequel review trivia. It's also the only game, besides Fall Guys, that I own more than one version of. Anyways, back to the game at hand. All of this weird history led to the result of Team Sonic Racing. Starting back in 2019, the last two Sonic Racing game was Sonic 3 Riders in 2010. And if you want to get really technical, the last racing game where Sonic was truly in a car was Sonic Drift 2 in 1995. So yeah, we came a long way. Now I feel like the drum contest in this game, that's pretty good at best and kind of mid at worst. But it feels like most people kind of ignore this game. And that sucks, because this game is really good, and feels overlooked. So that's why in today's video, I will do an analysis and review of Team Sonic Racing, and go over my thoughts on the game as well as how it is 5 years later, and see what it could potentially hold in the future of Sonic Racers. Let's just get on with the video. Now, it's been quite some time since I last really played this game. I first got it when I was still fairly new, back when I first got my PlayStation 4, back all the way in Christmas 2019. Jesus Christ, I'm old. Depression aside, since I've had this game for a while, it's been a couple years since I've consistently played, although I still have played some races and got some trophies since then. So I guess when going over this game to see how it is 5 years later, I guess it's best to start with the game's core, its gameplay. This game is your average kart racer, with normal controls and mechanics like drifting, items, hazards along the track, weird inverted roads that seem to be formed by time itself, the usual kart racer stuff. But where things heat up is with the gameplay. As you can tell with the title of the game, you're racing Team League 3 as opposed to just by yourself. It's kind of like if Sonic Heroes got turned into a kart racer. So even if you get first place, your team will still need to take also place well to ensure an overall victory for your team. Usually the CPUs aren't too bad from my experience with the game, and they can usually get a win just fine. Plus, all teammates can help each other out with a variety of mechanics, which we can go over. First is this one is pretty simple. If you have a certain item you don't want, or you think your teammate will benefit better with it, you can hit the circle button on PS4 or whatever platform it is for other platforms to offer an item to your teammates, which they can accept or decline on the spot. Plus, you can also get item box transfer offers too, which can definitely help in a pinch. Next, when playing a race, whichever member of the team is the farthest ahead will leave a yellow trail behind them, and the other teammates who are behind can drive into and get a burst of speed to help them out, which is real handy. Another mechanic which is when a teammate gets hit by an opponent, and you, your other teammate, or the yellow trail that you leave behind can drive or be by them to get the downed teammate back into action quicker. Then finally, on the screen there's this little bar that appears at all times, and if you hold the mechanic I mentioned earlier, plus hating other racers, and the bar will fill up until it's max, and you can press a button, which unleashes your teammates. What this does is make you go really fast and give you invincibility, but it's really helpful when winning races. Okay, listen to a sweet tune each time when you activate it. And the cool thing about this is that each character has a unique song for their team ultimate, and it corresponds to their own songs from previous Sonic games. The big theme from Sonic Adventure to Metal Sonic's boss theme from Sonic Forces. It's really interesting to see. One thing I really like with the gameplay is it feels more unique. While it feels less smooth compared to games like Mario Kart 8, the 3-team mechanics is honestly ingenious, and leads to it feeling like no other kart racer, helping it stand out in the crowd. It doesn't make it feel generic. Even if you don't buy the teamless gameplay, there is still an option for standard mode, which plays like a normal kart racer. But as the mighty Nathaniel B once said,
playing Team Sonic Racing without your team is like an apple pie without apples. It's just not right.
the game feels less fun and feels just off when playing in standard mode, but it can be a nice change of pace every once in a while, I'll admit. Another interesting mechanic is with character capabilities. But before I mention that, I should probably mention the characters themselves that you play as. Like all other kart racers, Team Sonic Racing has a good variety of characters, all of them ranging as familiar faces from across the franchise. These characters are split into 3 types: speed, technique, and power. These types each have their own quirks to them. The speed characters, Sonic, Amy, Blaze, Shadow, and Metal Sonic, all have a faster acceleration and speed, and they also have better handling. The technique characters, Tails, Chao, Silver, Groove, and Dr. Eggman, drive on off-road surfaces at normal speed, unlike other characters who slow down when not on the main road, which is why Tails is cleverly shown driving on the grass and on the Team Sonic Racing walkthroughs, which shows how much of a Sigma Chad Tails is. Then, finally the power characters, Knuckles, Big, Vector, Omega, and Zavok, can run into certain obstacles and get rings in return. They can also draw rings by them, and while this doesn't smooth the gameplay a ton, these character abilities, it does so enough to make it feel substantial. I only really have one major issue with the character roster. Now it's fine, good even, but there's one thing that's missing here. More like 3 things. What happened to Cream FPO and Charmy? They're just not in this game. If you're gonna make a kart racer that's still mechanics of Sonic Heroes, then you should have all the Sonic Heroes characters instead kart racer. FPO and Charmy even get mentioned in story mode.
Hey, where's the rest of your detective agency, Vector? Espio and Charmy, why aren't you guys a team?
I'm out here freelancing. Yeah, that's it. Trying to make a little extra coin.
Instead, Vector just gets put on Silver and Blaze's team, and for Cream, they don't say what happened to her. She just gets replaced by some Chao instead. My canon theory is that she's going to kidnap by her Chao Cheese during the game, because let's be honest, Cheese is a tool of mass destruction and murder, so yeah, I'm assuming this happened. Here's my image of my ideal Team Sonic Racing character selection. It involves Cream being put with Amy and Big, like in Sonic Heroes. Chao can pawn Silver and Blaze's team to be converted to a power type, and SBO, Charmy, and Vector can all be on one team together. This concept isn't perfect, but I think it's better than the game's current selection, and contains more characters. There is one more thing that I should talk about with the characters, and more specifically their types. So that leads me to talking about Now, Team Sonic Racing's items are quite interesting. There's not too much to say about them, but I feel like they are substantial enough to get their own video section. Now, starting off, you may recognize the items as they're the Wisps Sonic colors. These little alien guys give you a power that allows you to be used for gameplay variety and for unlocking hidden collectibles in the level. they're in this game. I really like their inclusions, especially since they can be rolled into items really well. It's just that most people weren't too happy with this. By 2019, people got kind of tired of the Wisp because they kept showing up in mainline Sonic games after colors for usually no reason. And Generations, they only showed up in like one level of Sonic Colors games, so it made sense there. Also, they were just here for no reason other than the lack of originality. Easily the best example of unnecessary. And then there was Sonic Forces, and there's the Boost Wisp. That's one of the various methods in order to get Boost for boosting in the game. And for the advertisers on the Wisp spawns, they aren't technically the Wisp, you use the Wisp's abilities, but in order to use the Wisp spawn's secondary ability, you have to find like the correct Wisp capsule, which will contain the Wisp sides together in that game. I don't think it's like as bad as Lost World as it works a little differently, but still not the most necessary. But it's Wisp related, so by the time Team Sonic Racing rolled or drove around, people weren't too content with this, which sucks, as if the Wisps weren't overused, and I feel like people would appreciate the Wisps as items more. Well, like I said, I like that the Wisps are items here. I can see why people don't. Anyways, items in Team Sonic Racing are your usual car racer items. There's the green shell replacement with Rocket, the red shell replacement with Eagle, the mushroom replacement with Boost, the bullet bill replacement with Drill, and so on. You get the gist of it. But there are a good handful of bits that work differently from any Mario Kart item. Like, for example, there's a laser, which allows you to shoot a massive laser from this vehicle. That can deal massive damage, along with being able to be angled off the walls. Or there's Void, which summons a circle around your cart, so you can get additional items and rings, as well as slowing down other players. There are a total of 15 items that all characters can use in Sonic Racing. This is a good amount, but there are additional items that can only be used by specific character types, which is what I was teasing earlier. The speed types get to use Burst, which leads a trail of fire in your racer's wake, allowing them to spin out another racer. The technique type gets Rhythm, which works with the Mario Kart blooper. Then, for some reason, the power types get 3 items instead of just 1, so okay, sure, a little more power to them. Funny joke. Anyways, these items are Quake, which summons giant rocks towers in front of racers, Spike, which is a shield that only hurts players and when players are near the racer, and Void, which I already talked about. Overall, items on racing are pretty good and can be creative and fun to use most of the time, but where can you use items? On tracks. Oh wait. Now the selection of courses to race on Team Sonic Racing is pretty solid. I'd say 21 tracks is pretty good, and I wouldn't say any of the tracks are bad. They're just kind of mad when they're the worst. There are 7 areas / speed in Team Sonic Racing, each of them having 3 races each. I think it's an interesting concept. It also kind of works like acts in a normal Sonic game, which is the area having 3 acts as races, which I think is a cool touch. I'm not going to talk about all the tracks as that would take too long, so I'm just going to go over some highlights. First, I'll mention the starter track, Planet Wisp. I think it's a good way to get the hang of the controls, plus simple mechanics like drifting. And it has solid level design. While I still think Mario Stadium from Mario Kart Deluxe is better than this, Planet Wisp is certainly better than Crash and Racing Nitro Field. So, yeah. Then we have Mokic Street. This is a pretty fun map to race on, but I feel like the part of it that stands out the most is that the fact it's based off Rooftop Run, Sonic and Leech. Which feels like the right time to mention that Team Sonic Racing has courses that are heavily based on, which are pulled from past Sonic games, which brings some nice fan service to the game, as well as making the tracks more interesting to drive through. Next track I want to talk about is Sand Road. Not the most interesting track in the game. I want to bring it up because this track is absolute banger music, and it's my favorite music track in the entire game. It's been playing in the background of this segment, and it's really goated. And my favorite music track, so my favorite race track in general, we have Sky Road. I think this course is just really fun, rushing through the skies and being such close up to course balloons. I also love the beginning, where you bounce off the giant spring and do like a million flips in the air before landing down, with a satisfying speed boost. That's my favorite level design in the game, and it's overall my favorite track in the game. So yeah. Now finally, I want to talk about Roulette Road. Now I have a lot to say about this track. This track, along with a few other tracks in Team Sonic Racing, have been remade and brought over from Sega Ultimate Racing, as well as Ocean Beat and Transform. Now with Roulette Road, it started in Sega Ultimate Racing. That was one of the few tracks to be remade and transformed into Classic Cup. Now it's back again for Team Sonic Racing. Man, Sega just loves Roulette Road so much that they brought it back again. And don't get me wrong, I really like Roulette Road. It was weird to have Roulette Road have been present in all these games. There might be a good reason why, but I'm not sure of it. Sega made up for it by including an absolutely fire remix of the Roulette Road music. Now, when Sega All-Stars Racing transformed, and probably the original Sega All-Stars Racing, it had a more chill casino music track. It's still a vibe. Team Sonic Racing remix Tastings to 11. Hear this comparison. This is a really close second to my favorite music track in Team Sonic Racing. As I said before, I don't mind this track at all, but in the next Sonic Fast Sega Racing game, if there are remakes, maybe leave this one out, unless it's absolutely necessary for whatever reason. And those are all the tracks I want to talk about. There aren't as many races in Team Sonic Racing like Crashing Racing Nightdrive, and especially more Fade Deluxing, especially when including DLC. But it makes up for it by having a consistent quality with them. And what is a good way to tie these tracks together? Well, yes, the best part in any racing game, the adventure mode. Many different racing games have different types of adventure modes that work differently. It seems like racing is a bit more on the basic side when it comes to this. It still does its story mode well. Super Digital, the main development team behind Team Sonic Racing, did similar stuff to this in the Sega All-Stars Racing games. In the first Sega All-Stars Racing, the adventure mode was more boiled down to something like a mission mode from Micro DS, where you could just tackle a handful of missions that put your driving skills to the test. In Transformed, they expanded on this in World Tour mode, the game single player, where you would have 5 areas to go through, each with their own unique challenges and races. These are always super fun, the biggest highlight of this game, and they had good progression too. See, for each race you complete, you get stars. The higher the difficulty or the harder the objective, you will get more stars. You will eventually need stars to progress to later levels, and to me, it makes the game more fun and replayable. Even though it can get kind of grindy on the last couple of worlds. So this type of style would return in Team Sonic Racing. It would be interesting to see what it would evolve. And there's quite a few improvements. For one, there's an actual story here. In Transform, you can simply play through levels with the incentives to unlock new characters and mod. But now, there's lore. Even though it's quite simple and a bit meh, it's still nice to have, and helps drive the game forward. I'm just gonna give you a basic rundown of the story since it's not that deep, but if you want a more descriptive retelling of the story, just read the Team Sonic Racing wiki story overview. They actually do like a really good job describing it well here. But anyways, okay. So basically, Sonic and friends get a mysterious invitation from Grandpa, this guy right here. He asks him to compete in this racing Grand Prix thing where teamwork is the key to winning. The winner does get to keep the supercars they use in those races, as well as a pretty banger cash prize. Team Sonic and Team Rose, except although they are a little sus of Grandpa. Eventually, he invites Silver Blaze and Vector, who are willing to race for also sus of Grandpa. But eventually, Grandpa invites too many people and invites Eggman to race along. Now, Sonic and friends think Grandpa and Eggman are working together to create an Ultra Energy engine to do something very mischievous and despicable with it. But after some sleuthing around and some wise words from philosopher Big the Cat,
Mr. Paw works with wisps, and wisps only like nice people.
the gang determined that Dodonpa isn't evil or working with Eggman. He just wants to use the Ultra Energy engine to be the best engine ever and to reduce pollution using it. Very epic. But Eggman wants to use the engine for pure evil, so he kidnaps Dodonpa, cleverly titled in Chapter 6 The Kidnapping. Also, want to see this fire music for Chapter 6 really quick. Okay, back to the story. So now Eggman forces Grandpa to finish the machine by using the power from the gang's teamwork to just fully finish, and is used power this robot guy, these big robot guys, and do a final right off against it. The robot dies. And then they say, yay, the end. I did miss some story beats, but if you want to experience it in the full detail, just play the game or just read the TSR Wiki plot overview. The story is overall fine, and still enjoyable and works well for this game, but it could have been better. Now on to Adventure Mode's ideal gameplay. It still retains many elements from Transform, having a map of races and challenges to compete in. It contains 7 chapters or areas, some more than Transform's 5. But these chapters are noticeably shorter and more linear, especially in the first couple. But I don't mind this, as it makes sense for the game to be more linear due to the story, and it isn't 100% linear, so you can still tackle certain parts in any order or way. I do miss Transform's approach and the more open-ended way of going for missions. Also in Team Sonic Race, missions are just now levels with there being a world map and everything. The presentation on these are pretty solid. Now I think the biggest issue with Adventure Mode is the variety can be a bit lacking. There are a lot more races and challenges here. Most races are just normal races. Even still, though, I wouldn't say the mode is boring, as if there's still race replayability with stars, and the races usually coinciding with the story. More race modifiers and challenges would be nice. There's still a handful of challenge missions, however, and they are pretty good. There are things like drifting near posts as close as possible, going in between two certain robots in a matter of time, and some others. For the racing modifiers, there may be less, but they are a lot cooler than Transformers. Transformers had more minor race modifiers, only ever really being mirror mode courses, or races where you can only use certain items. With Team Sonic Racing, you still have mirror mode, but now there's things like full Grand Prix, my personal favorite, elimination races. Kind of look like F-Zero, where after every lap the bottom 5 get out. It's like this in Team Sonic Racing, but it's the bottom 3 instead. This is a pretty fun twist on a normal race, and I wish there were more races like this in Adventure Mode, or even just a separate mode for elimination races in general. That's all I have to say about Adventure Mode. It could be improved on in many ways, but it's still a really fun time. It's certainly better than the mission in the motion mode in OG Sega All-Stars Racing. When it comes to Transform, it's honestly hard to pick which is better, as both are good for different reasons. And the spread Team Sonic Racing Adventure Mode is pretty solid, so that's why you'll be playing usually in Team Sonic Racing, which leads me to talking about Now, I think one of the biggest issues with Team Sonic Racing is the amount of content, which isn't much. There's obviously Team Adventure Mode, and also you can do single races or Grand Prix, as usual. There are 3 difficulties for that. There's mirror mode, to actually play as a team, or in solo. There's multiplayer, of course, there being local online multiplayer, and while I can't access online multiplayer at the moment, I've heard from many it's pretty dead, and I'm assuming it hasn't gotten any resurgence 5 years later. And then there's mod pods. With credits you earn from car racing, like new car parts and car customization, which is a nice incentive, but there's trophies and achievements you can get through Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox, which apparently you can play through Adventure Mode even more. As well as do some stuff in races that make things more interesting. Although these aren't on the Switch version due to a lack of achievement system on the Switch hardware, so maybe with Switch 2 we can get this. Also, please add themes on the Switch 2, Nintendo, please. And that's really it now. After being Adventure Mode and playing the tracks to the point where you're really good at them, the only real incentive to play the game is for multiplayer, unlocking car parts, and getting achievements. That's it, really. Content in this game isn't bad, I just wish there were a couple more things to do. I don't have much else to say about Team Sonic Racing, so now I feel like it's time to conclude my thoughts in the... Overall, I'd say Team Sonic Racing is a pretty good game. Definitely has many issues, but it is still a really solid time, and a pretty creative kart racer. Gameplay is unique and feels good. Even though there's only 21 tracks, there are a good selection of tracks. Team Adventure Mode is pretty fun, it's a great multiplayer experience. Just the game overall, like I said, it has some annoyances and issues, but it's pretty solid all around. I'd probably give it like 7 out of 10, it's too much water to be honest. Jokes aside, I actually say on 7 or 8 is actually where I would rank this game, especially compared to other car racers. This is pretty good. I can confidently say that this game should not be ignored and overlooked. It's a pretty good racing game that helps Sonic and racing coexist better.
And this might be a bit of a hot take, but I'd say that this game is just as good, or in some cases even better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or one of its biggest competitors. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe definitely does do a lot of things better compared to Team Sonic Racing. But I'd say Team Sonic Racing has more creative gameplay, plus also does a few other things that are better than Mario Kart. It's honestly pretty hard to say like which game I prefer, but I think Mario Kart Deluxe is silly more, I'd say, but like probably on certain days I probably would even prefer Team Sonic Racing. But while both games do not compare to Crashing Racing at the Field, which is in my opinion the best car racer of all time. He won Best Racing Game at the Game Awards, and if my man Gio Healy isn't right about that, then nothing is right in the world. So why recommend Team Sonic Racing to you? Yeah. I mean, if you're just looking for any car racer, just play Crashing Racing at the Field. It's seriously a great game. But if you're on that game, or looking for a cheaper car racer, or looking for a great cooperative multiplayer experience, then definitely recommend Team Sonic Racing. Last but not least, this game still holds up all this time later. We hope this leads to a great future for Sonic Racing games.
And whew, boy, that was quite a video. This video essay / analysis is not only the video that took me the longest to make, but it's also the one I put the most amount of effort into. So I really hope you all watched and enjoyed this video. As this is my biggest passion project on the channel yet, and I hope it does positively good. Now make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I mean, you don't have to, but it does help out quite a lot. Also make sure to check out my other videos for more content like this, as well as other types of content too. And finally, make sure to follow my Twitter, links in the description. And now, as in the video, I will now put a TSR out of the PS4, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Huh? Where's Team Sonic Racing? Why isn't this coming out? Is it, like, stuck or something? Oh, no. Not you. What are you doing here, even? Yeah, but your content's really bad and clickbaitable. Plus, that's one of my best performing videos. Wait. Fine, I'll take it on the video. I actually like Team Sonic Racing, and I would like to keep the disc of the game. Thank you very much. Grr, get back here. Get back here, you. God! Fat beaver. Yeah, got you now. Aw, man. She's too fast. I'm gonna catch up with her and get that Team Sonic Racing disc back. If only I had someone to help me. Wow, Burger Boy, you took quite a good fight there. Nice job. Nice. Glad she didn't take it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like chilling. Sure. I'd be down. I'm